Welcome to your Habify trial. It's great to have you here. As you've probably seen, Habify is a knowledge retention and learning system that guarantees better transference from your training. Today I'm going to walk you through how Habify works, what makes it truly unique in the world of learning and development, and how you can experience it right now. To really understand the science behind Habify, how it can add value to your organization, and to get a taste of its user experience, I recommend that you download the Habify app now. You'll find the app on the Apple iStore and Google Play Store. This video links directly with the app. Downloaded? Great. Good to have you in the driver's seat. Next, let's create your profile and enter the training code DEMO 2020. This will unlock all the Habify content and features. For the purposes of your Habify 7-day trial, this video will be used as the training material. Ready? Great. Let's get into it. The first step is to understand how Habify works. It all starts with your training content. This may be your internal training or one of the training programs that we offer. Habify also integrates seamlessly with most LMS software. For this trial experience, this video will be used as your training session. The content I'm sharing with you right now will be our training material. So let's assume that your learners are finishing up with the training workshop. In the last 20 minutes of the training session, each learner will be asked to download the Habify mobile app. They then enter a unique code corresponding to the workshop that they've just completed. Once this code is entered, the app is populated with the respective modified training material from the session the learner attended. The entire training module is downloaded in one sitting to prevent any excuses of not having data or signal to view upcoming content. The download is usually no more than 100 megabytes, and daily feedback to our platform is less than 50 kilobytes per day. Once downloaded, the learner completes an assessment of the workshop to benchmark their knowledge level. Once the first assessment is completed, the participant gets their score. The next morning, and for the next 30 days, the learner receives a daily push notification on their mobile device requesting them to complete a bite-sized workshop-specific exercise in the app. We call these engagements. These engagements consist of true or false and multiple choice questions in the form of short videos, podcasts, and articles. These engagements will take 5 minutes or less each day. The learner then receives a daily score of their activity. Habify's easy-to-use mobile app has a clean, uncluttered, and intuitive interface. Habify also uses gamification techniques derived from mobile gaming apps to trigger dopamine release in the brain. This helps keep the learner engaged for a full 5-minute engagement each day with a fun, easy user experience. Every Friday, the app will update a leaderboard on the app that shows the 5 highest scoring learners for that training for that week. In this free trial, we complete 7 days of engagement to give you an idea of the learner's journey. Now, at the end of 30 days, on completion of the Habify process, a second assessment is completed and compared to the first assessment. Both assessments are identical in structure to give an accurate reading of what the learner has remembered from that training. We can now calculate their knowledge retention, which is portrayed in a comprehensive graph-based report. This report highlights scores for participation, knowledge retention, training ROI, and areas that may require further development. Okay, so far, this may look and sound like micro-learning, but there is one critical element we have yet to uncover. What makes Habify unique is how we have mixed technology and blended learning with one-on-one coaching en masse. The truth is, life happens. We get busy, our lives take twists and turns, and often our professional development may slide slower down our ladder of priorities. Unlike e-learning or micro-learning, which relies on self-motivation and personal discipline, Habify uses a unique intervention tool to hold participants accountable for their own learning. Imagine going to the gym and hiring a personal trainer. He or she will expect you to show up on time, to do the reps, and to finish your exercises. They hold you accountable and motivate you to reach your goal. Learning should be no different. If a learner stops engaging with their training material, we believe someone should be there to support them to stay on track. If a learner skips 2 days of activity on the Habify app, an intervention is triggered and their supervisor, manager, team leader, or one of our professional coaches is notified. They then have a conversation with the learner to offer constructive support to motivate their completion of that training. These interventions are key to ensuring the learner maximizes his or her learning experience. Now that we've covered how Habify works, let's touch on the science of why Habify works. Humans are creatures of habit. In fact, 45% of our daily behaviors are habits. This means that almost half of what we do every day is a habit. When we eat, how we speak on the telephone, what we wear, or even how we drive, we unconsciously create habits to streamline our lives. When we focus on self-improvement, we are generally creating a new habit and modifying our behavior. But if you've ever tried to create a new habit, you'll know how difficult it can be to stick to a new routine in the beginning. After a few weeks, your resolve is stronger and it gets easier to maintain a new habit. The longer you stick it out, the longer the results last. But why? Well, every time you take an action, neurons fire in your brain, and by repeating an action or behavior, the neural pathways between these neurons start to thicken. The more unfamiliar the behavior or action, the more energy your brain requires to complete that action. You see, your brain is an energy consumer. It weighs only 2% of your body weight, but it consumes 20% of your body's total energy and oxygen supply. To make this consumption as efficient as possible, our brains make very important behaviors cost very little energy. Imagine these neural pathways to be a direct flight to a destination versus a connecting flight. Far less energy is used when flying direct. These are the basic mechanics of how habits are formed. If you're responsible for training your staff, chances are you've experienced frustration with learners not remembering what they've been trained. They go back into their jobs and very little actually changes. Imagine for a moment that you're training a group of people and you've identified the top 10 takeaways or distinctions from the training material that you want your attendees to remember and obviously apply. As it stands, most people will remember 2 out of 10 distinctions a month later. But what would it look like if these same attendees were able to remember 8 out of 10 distinctions from that same session? Well, they'd be able to recall and apply the distinctions into their workflows. They'd build on their professional skill set for the long term and become happier, more motivated employees. There'd also be a direct impact on the organization's performance. So to bump the number of remember distinctions from 2 to 8, we need to create an environment to improve their rate of knowledge absorption and memory retention. This is where Habify fills the gap. The way each of us learns is different. Learning, as you're well aware, doesn't sit exclusively in any one of these learning styles. We learn best with our own unique blend of learning preferences. Habify maximizes on this by modifying training material into a multimodal learning experience, tapping into each learning style to achieve the best result for the learner. The app is self-contained and almost zero data. This means all content for a training module is downloaded in one sitting, limiting data and signal excuses. So, to recap what I've just shared with you, Habify is a knowledge retention and learning system that guarantees better application and transference from your training. It also integrates seamlessly with most LMS software. The entire training module is downloaded to the learner's mobile to prevent any data or signal issues. The daily training engagements are less than 5 minutes each day. Habify is gamified. On completion of the Habify process, a performance report is generated detailing learner participation, knowledge retention, training ROI, and areas that require further development. If the learner skips 2 days of activity on the Habify app, an intervention is triggered and their supervisor, manager, team leader, or one of our professional coaches is notified. They then have a motivational conversation with the learner to offer support and help them get back on track. People forget up to 90% of information within 30 days. By reinforcing the training content with multimodal learning and holding the learner accountable for their learning, you achieve the best results. Imagine now that you have just reached the end of a training session. You've entered the code into the Habify app and it's downloaded this training's content. It will now ask you to complete an assessment of what you have just learned in a series of short questions. This will benchmark your knowledge level and will be compared to a second assessment in 7 days. Thank you for joining me. My team and I are super excited for you to experience this leap in learning and development.